So fine, welcome to the day 4 of the training. Over here we'll be talking about object oriented programming. This is the most important part or the most important modules of all the modules, because everything in Selenium is based on object oriented programming. The complete architecture of Selenium is based on object oriented programming. So let's start with this, and I'll create a new project known as Java OOPS, which is object oriented programming, and inside it let's create a class. For example, I'll create a class known as, say, Facebook page, and with this I am going to explain you the concepts of objects. Fine. Now what does a Facebook page? This class represents, say, a general page on the website Facebook. Okay, so it can have a feature like the name of the page, alright, or int number of page views of that particular page. Okay, so you can have, say, the login page or the profile page or the page on which your friends are there. So this page, this Facebook page class will represent a generic page on the Facebook, and every page would obviously have a name and some page views. And over here I'm going to create a new class known as, say, test sample test.java or client.java, anything you can name it, with the main function. Now Facebook page, I deliberately did not give any main function, and now what I am going to do is that from the main function of client.java I am going to create object of the Facebook page. What do you mean by creating the object of the Facebook page? I can simply write new Facebook page. So this thing is known as creating object. This is the command, that new and the class name. This is the class name. You can refer the name of some other class in some other class as well. Okay, like in client.java I am accessing Facebook page. Now what happens in the memory when you create the object? Okay, in the memory you will see that you'll see something like this, that is, the object of this particular class will be created, and this object would have two things inside it, that is page name and page views, two variables. Now what do we achieve by creating the object? What is the advantage? Object has to be accessed. Okay, this object I have created, but in order to use it I will have to access it using a reference. Okay, this is known as the reference. You write object, the class name, the reference name equated to the object of the class. Object and object reference are two different things. Over here FB would be the object reference pointing towards this particular object. With the help of FB you can change the state of the object. You can write over here FB dot name is, say, home page, and FB dot page views are maybe 1001. So this page over here, the value of this variable, it becomes home page, and this becomes 1001. So with the help of the object reference you can change the state. If I write FB dot, you will get the name and page view options. Okay, you can move the cursor over here, hit Control space bar of the keyboard. you will get this drop down again. So you get the internals of a class by creating the internal properties of the class. You can get them by creating the object and putting a dot in front of the object reference. Alright, now you can create as many objects of this class. I can create another object known as Facebook page, say fb1 equals to new Facebook page, right, and fb1 dot, the name of the page is say profile page, and fb1 dot page views will be equal to say 2000, something like this. Okay, remember there is just one class. Alright, there is just one class over here, that is Facebook page. By creating multiple objects of that particular class, you can have different values of the variables for every object. Okay, Facebook page is just one class, it is having two variables. But if I create multiple objects, then I can have different values of these two variables for every object. If I look at the diagram now, what I have done is I have created one more object. In this object, the page name is profile page and page views are 2000, and the object reference fb1 is pointing towards it. Okay, now the next thing is I can create, say, let me just create one more object over here. This is your friends page, 3000. Okay, so in the diagram I will make one more box. So I want to explain you the concept how object reference is different from object. What can be done with the object references. So this is page name and this is friends page and page views are say 3000, I guess. Right. Now if I have to, so I'm sorry, this should be fb1, fb2, fb2. So fb1 dot name is profile page, fb1 dot page views are 2000, and fb2 dot name is friends page, and this is 3000. Now if I print it, if I print fb dot name, fb1 dot name and 2 dot name, if I run this code, then it will print home page, profile page and friends page. Okay, right. Now if I write a little different, if I write fb equals to fb1, here comes the catch. If you write fb equals to fb1, this means that in the memory fb will no longer be pointing over here. fb will point towards the same location where fb1 is pointing. So object and object references, they are different. Object references are, they can be dynamic, they can point towards different objects, but objects, they are static in the memory, they won't move. Now this object has got no object reference, it will automatically be destroyed by Java. But this object now has got two object references. Both these object references can change the state or retrieve the state of the object. By saying this, I mean if I print these commands again, okay, I'll put a demarcating line and run this code. So see, for both fb and fb1 it is printing profile page. Earlier profile page was for fb1. So FB it is pointing towards FB1 object now. And if I change the state of the object with any one of these two references, if I write FB dot name is logout page and print the same thing, you will see in the output that it prints logout for both FB and FB1, because in the memory both the references are pointing towards the same object. Any one reference can change the state. Any one of them can remove this profile page and it can update it. This became logout page right now. Okay, right. So this is what objects are, object references are. Technically, these two variables are known as non-static global variables. Both of them are known as non-static global variables. Now, what is static? What is static? What is the relevance of static? Why it is used? Let us look at that now. Suppose there is a variable over here, say string owner of the page. Owner of the page is Facebook Incorporation, obviously, right? Suppose I declare this variable like this. For every page, the owner is obviously Facebook Incorporation. If I'm creating the object of this web page, then I will have to initialize this variable to Facebook Incorporation for every object. For every object, I have to initialize it. I have to give it the same value. I have to give it the same value for every object, which actually doesn't make sense, because it is unnecessarily eating up my memory in every object. Okay, so owner becomes Facebook Incorporation, but this will be repeated in every object. So what we do is that we don't work like this. Hold on. We don't make this as a part of every object. We declare this variable as static. If you make it static, then you basically say that this is not the part of the object. This variable will no longer be the part of the object. This variable will be somewhere in the memory, lying maybe in its own area, somewhere over here, owner, right, this variable owner, and this will be common for all the three objects. Okay, right, but this will not be the part of the object. So since this is not the part of the object, if you open client.java, you will get a yellow warning sign over here that please don't access it with the object reference. This is not the part of the object. This is a static variable. So I'll comment these lines. You will not get an error but a warning. It's not a good practice. Warning, basically whenever you get a warning sign, understand that Java is telling you that you are trying to do this. This is okay, you can do, but it's not something very good. Okay, so you comment this. Static things can be accessed directly with the name of the class. You can write Facebook dot owner is Facebook Incorporation. Static things can directly be accessed with the name of the class. But to access non-static, you have to create the object. I cannot access the name variable with the name of the class. I cannot write Facebook page dot name. Whose name? Which object's name? Okay, non-static variables have to be accessed with the objects, and static variables, this is known as a static global variable. This can be accessed with the class name. These will be accessed by the creation of the objects. This is a class level variable. Alright. Now similarly, you can have functions in the class. We studied functions, right, in the last module. Similarly, you can build functions, and there are two types of functions. One is a non-static function. For example, I will make a function like public void print page details, and inside it I will print the name of the page followed by the number of page views. So this is a non-static function. Inside the non-static function, I am accessing two non-static variables. Okay, and I am printing them. Now print page details is a non-static function. It will also become the part of every object. Every object would have the print details function. But it depends. If FB is calling print details, it will access the variables inside the FB object. If FB2 is calling the print details function, then it will access the variables. It means the print details function will access the variables of FD2 like page name, page views and all. So over here in your client.java, you will be having access to print details function, and hold on. If I write over here fb dot print details and fb1 dot print details and fb2 dot print, the function name is same for all the three objects, but when you run it, see, for FB it is printing for logout page, because obviously for FB and FB1 we had the same object for both the references. It is printing the details of those objects, but for FB2 it is printing friends page with 3000 views. So if FB2 is calling the print details function, it will actually access the variables of FB2. Now what about static? If I print owner over here, you can use the static variable inside the non-static function as well. Once you have initialized the static variable in the very beginning, and when you call it, when you run this, it will print Facebook incorporation for all the three objects. Alright, now generally the things which you don't want to make the part of the object, you generally make it static. Alright, now I will make one more function, a static function like public static void print company details. This function is going to print the company details for Facebook, like it will print the owner plus say founded in 2005, something like this. So this is a static function. This will not be the part of the object. If something is static, it is never the part of the object. It will be again lying somewhere over here in the memory at a common location. Print company details. In order to access this function, you can directly access it in client.java with the name of the class. Facebook page dot print company details. You can access it with object as well. You can write fb2 dot print company details, but it is not recommended. You will get a warning sign. Okay, and when you run it, it will print 2 times Facebook Incorporation, founded in 2005, but you know, it is not recommended to use it like this. So a class comprises of non-static global variables, static global variables, non-static functions and static functions. Non-static functions are for the objects. I can make one more non-static function. You will get more clarity. You can write public void increase page views, and you send a variable int views, and it will increase the page views by that many number. You can write page views equals to page views plus views. Alright, so over here, suppose FB2 and FB1. FB1 and FB are the same object references, right? If I write over here FB1 dot increase page views by 100 and FB2 dot increase page views by 200. Okay, and I will print the details of FB1 and FB2 after this. So when you run this, before running it was 2000 and 3000. After running it becomes 2100 for FB1. Logout page was FB1, and 3200 for FB2, because I am increasing it by 100 and 200 for the respective objects. Okay, the non-static function increase page views will access the page views of the specific object and increase it. Alright, fine. Now this also becomes a non-static function. So you have got non-static global variables, static global variables, non-static functions and static functions. There is also something known as a local variable. For example, this views is a local variable. It can only be accessed inside the function. If I declare a variable inside this function, say int I, this will be a local variable. This is neither non-static, neither static, nothing. The accessibility or the visibility of this variable is only inside this particular function. If I try to access it over here, I will get an error that it cannot be recognized. Fine, I will have to again declare I over here. So I over here and over here, both the places it can have the same name I, but both the variables would be different in the memory. Alright. Now it is important to initialize the local variable. If I print over here system.out.println I, and if I print over here I will get an error. I will get an error over here. You see, I am getting the error, the local variable I may not have initialized. So it is important to initialize your local variables. The global variables, no need to initialize. By default, this string is null, int will be 0 by default. Okay, but the local variable has to be initialized. If I create an object, if I am creating the object over here and I am initializing the name and the page views, but before initializing the name and the page views for this object, if I print the name, if I write fb.name over here followed by fb.pageviews, page views and name haven't been initialized for this object, but still I'm able to access without an error, and if I run it, it will simply print me null and 0. These are the default variable values for strings and integers. Alright, fine. You can also create an object like this. You can write Facebook page fb3 equals to null. This means FB3 is actually not pointing anywhere. FB3 object reference will be just there in the memory. Hold on. Okay, this thing has gone for a toss. Sorry. FB3 in the memory would just be hanging and not pointing towards any object. It will just be like this, FB3. But on the next line, I can make FB3 point towards the object of the Facebook page class. So on the next line, FB3 will point towards the object of the Facebook class. Right, it's not FB, it's FB3. And I can initialize it. I can write FB3 dot name is, say, settings page or something like this. So what I mean to say is that FB3, when it is not pointing to any object, and if you try to access it, if I write FB3 dot name, over here if you try to access it, first of all Java will send you a warning that null pointer access, that it is not pointing anywhere, please be careful, and when you run it, it will throw you a null pointer exception. This is an exception which most of the times people come across. Null pointer exception is a foolish mistake. It's a mistake by the developer or the tester who's writing the code. Right, you should not be getting this exception at all. It also tells you the line number on which you get this exception. You click on this line, it will get highlighted. This means that object is null. You haven't initialized the object, but you are trying to use the internal contents of the object. Okay. Now one more thing where people get confused. This was my non-static variable, function. I was accessing the static variable owner inside this non-static function. Okay, I can access it, but if I try to access, this is my static function, if I try to access the variable, say the name, which is a non-static variable, I will not be able to access it. Or if I try to call the non-static function from a static function, it will give you an error. The global rule is static functions cannot access non-static stuff, whether it is a function or a variable. Why? The reason comes out to be why. This is print details company. This is print details function. This is not the part of any object. Okay, and when you try to print the name, then whose name are you trying to print? I am calling this function with the name of the class, not with an object. It is lying at a place in the memory which is common for all the objects. And if you are trying to access the object variable name, then which object are you referring to? Print details function. Print details is non-static. It's the part of the object. It prints the object details. But which object details do you want to print? This function is the part of the object. Okay, so you cannot access, the golden rule is static functions. Within something which is static, you cannot access non-static. However, the opposite is true. Inside the non-static, you can access the static variables. Even you can access the static functions. You can call print company details over here like this. Okay, so when you run this for every object, it will be printing the company details. When you call the this one in print details function, this will print the details of the object as well, plus it will print the company details as well. Alright. by the end of this module, if you are logged in into your account, you will see exercises. Please try to solve those exercises. Please write this code yourself, whatever I have written. Only then you will be able to understand. You will surely get errors. I am not saying that you will not get errors. You will get errors. You will make some mistakes as well. But try to rectify them yourself. Search on Google. Post it on our forum as well. Okay, we can help you out. But at least practice and also do the exercises. Alright. Now comes the point that what is public static void main? Well, why is it static first of all? Why the static word is with the main function? Static word is with the main function because when the Java, internal Java, it calls the client class, it can simply call client dot main function. It doesn't have to create the object of this class to call the main function. Alright, the root is static. The place from where you start your program, that function is static. That's a single thread. It's not the part of any object or something. Okay, you are not creating the object of the client class internally to access the main function. Once you are in the main function, you can create the object of the class and access the static stuff. I told you that in static functions you cannot access non-static functions directly or the variable names. But in static functions you can create the object of the class and access it. In the print company details, I can create the object of Facebook page class. But you cannot access directly. You can create the object and access these variables for that particular object. That can be done. Okay, similarly, in the main function over here, I am creating the objects of the Facebook class, Facebook page class, and I am accessing the non-static stuff with those objects. Alright, fine. So this is a simple thing that at times people have this question that why is this main function static? Okay, the simple reason is Java will directly call it with the name of the class. Right. Now there is one more important thing, which is call by reference and call by value. Let me explain you. Suppose I make a class over here known as point. We'll study pass by value, pass by reference. So this is the point class and I'll create the main function as well in it. Now point has one x coordinate and also a y coordinate. Okay. Suppose I have to change the x and y coordinates of a point. In the main function, which is static, I will create the object of this class itself. I'll write point p equals to new point and I'll initialize the point to x as 100 and y as well as 100. So x and y have initialized, but suppose I have to change the coordinates of this particular point class. Alright, suppose I make a function known as public void change, in which I will send two new coordinates a and b, and I can call this function like p.change to 200 and 300. Alright, so you want that when you print the coordinates, before calling this function, you print the x coordinate and you print the y coordinate before calling this function, and after calling this function you print the same thing. That should be updated. Okay, so in the memory what will happen is you will have a diagram something like this with the local variables a and b over here. you will have a setup wherein you will have this object. Inside the object you will have the variables like x, y, and you will have a change function. This change function will itself have two local variables a and b. Alright, if I write over here that a equals to whatever, I want to increase the value of x over here. Alright, the x coordinate of the object. Fine. So I can write over here that fine, x equals to whatever value you are sending, a, and y equals to whatever value you are sending, which is b. Alright, and when you run this program, so it will update the value of x and y for this particular object. Okay, now what is special about this thing? Special about this thing is that just by sending 200 into a and 300 into b, you can alter the state of the object. This change function will access the global variables x and y. However, I will tell you now about the concept of pass by value first. Suppose you call the change function, and in the change function you are passing the value of point dot x coordinate and point dot y coordinate. And suppose the change function has to add 100 to x and 100 to y. It has to increment the coordinates, right, by 100 basis point for each of them. Right, or I will make one more function, increment by, and you can send 3 parameters inside this function. So I will make one more function known as public void increment by, in which I can have a variable a, b, and the increment, the value by which you have to increment. So I will increment a equals to a plus the increment and b equals to b plus the increment. Okay, if I print the value of p dot x and p dot y after the increment, you will see that it doesn't increment. The reason is that I am not incrementing the value of x and y over here. I am incrementing the value of the local variable a and b. In the memory, a and b are different variables and x and y are different variables. Okay, if I wanted to increment the value of x and y, I could have written xy over here. I'll come over to it in some time. But remember, the primitive data types are passed by value. P dot x I have written over here. Its value is sent inside a new variable a, and that variable is incremented. If I print the value of a and b over here, you will be able to see this thing. Now you must be wondering that fine, this is, you see that it is incrementing. You must be wondering that this is but obvious thing, why am I telling you? It will get clear in some time. However, if you write x and y, which are the global variables, over here, then x and y of the object will get changed. Okay, x is different than a and y is different than b. Okay, now there is something known as object reference passing. Okay, I can make the same function increment by, which will take in the object reference point P and the increment. So this function name is same for both the functions, but the input parameters are different. This is known as overloading. That is overloading of a function. The name can be same, but the input parameters are different. Okay, now over here what I am going to do, I can write p dot x equals to p dot x plus the increment, and p dot y equals to p dot y plus the increment. So when you call this function, you can simply write p dot increment by, and you can send the point p and the increment value as 200. So this function will increment 200 to x and y, but over here this p and this, I'll call this point, suppose this the reference name, so that I am keeping it with a different name so that it is clear to you. Now when you do this in the memory, what happens is a reference P is already pointing towards this object. With this reference P, you had created this object over here in the very beginning. Okay, now when you pass it over to this function, when you pass the reference into the function, you are saying that for this object a new reference is being made and the name of that reference will be point. With that reference you can change the values of x and y. This is pass by reference. If I print these values after incrementing, they would have incremented by 200 points. You see, they have incremented. The objects are passed as references. If you pass an object reference to a function, then you are creating one more reference to that particular object. However, if you are passing a variable, say I am passing p dot x into a variable a, then a is a different variable and p dot x will always be a different variable. The primitive data types are passed as values. Okay, the value of x goes into a, the value of y goes into b. You have to do like this. In this example, in the increment by function, I am sending a variable, b variable and the increment. I am incrementing, I am writing x equals to a plus increment. If suppose I name the local variables x and y same as the global variables, what will happen? If I have this local variable, this is my global variable x and y, and this is the local variable x and y over here in this function. Both the names are same. So this local variable, although the name is same, but they will have they will be different. Okay, a will be replaced by x and b will be replaced by y. The memory allocated to them would be different. And when I write x equals to x plus increment and y equals to y plus increment, this will increment the local variables. If I run this, you see that over here, this line, the second and the third line, before calling this increment and after calling, the values don't change for the global x and y. the values only change for the local ones. These will increment. So this x is actually hiding the global variable x. I want the global variable x to increment by 100 and the global variable y to increment by 100. So I can use the keyword this. This means the current object. The x coordinate of the current object and the y coordinate of the current object. This over here basically refers to this dot x refers to this x and this dot y refers to this y, and x and y over here they refer to these x and y. Okay, right. So this dot x means the x of the current object reference and this dot y means y of the current object reference. This thing might be a little confusing to you, that there are three things over here. One is passed by reference, passed by value, the second thing is passed by value, and third thing is the this operator. This keyword will always point towards the current object. Okay, so this if the local variable name or is same as the global variable name, then local variable will hide the global variable. If you want to access the global variable, which is basically the part of the object, non-static global variable, then you will have to use this keyword. So three things. Firstly, the primitive data types are passed by values, the objects are passed by references, and this keyword points towards the global variable if the name of the global and the local variable is same. This will be seen in constructors. The next thing, the last concept of this particular session is the concept of constructors, which is also really important. If I have a class, fine, if I have a simple class, let's create a simple class like a car class. Now what are the properties of the car class? The name of the car class, the price of the car class, okay, say the model of the car class. So there can be any number of properties for this car class. In client.java, suppose if I am creating the object of this car class, or I will just make a new class known as car driver, okay, and I write over here car C1 equals to new car. Then obviously I will have to initialize this object. I will have to write that the name of the car is car A, the price of the car is some number, and the model of the car is something like this, new. But if this object had too many properties, alright, if this object had name, price, model, engine, chassis number, and lots of other properties, number of seats, boot space, this, that, then you will have to initialize every property separately, which becomes a headache itself. If it had 20 properties, you would have initialized 20 properties like this, and if you were creating 10 objects, you would have to write 200 pieces of code to initialize 10 objects. So it creates a problem. Over here, constructors, they come into help. Constructors, it's very simple. They are declared something like this. This is the default constructor. The name of the constructor, it is same as the name of the class. There is no return type in the constructor. Okay, it's not a function. The name of the constructor has to be same as name of the class. If you give some different name, you will get an error. Alright. And if you print inside it, that is say inside car default constructor, and over here, whenever you create the object of the class, I am creating say two objects over here, one is over here and one is over here. Whenever you create the object of the car class, the constructor is going to be called. If I run this code, you will see that inside car default constructor is printed 2 times. Okay. If you create more class objects, just objects, if it's 5 objects, then the constructor is called 5 times. So constructor is something which is called at the time of object creation. So you can initialize your object. You can overload this constructor. You can have the car constructor with input variables like name, price and model. And when you create the object of the car, if I write car C3 equals to new car, I can write over here C3 dot, or instead of writing C3 dot name model or something, you can pass over inside the constructor itself that the name is B, the price is something like this, and the model is say old. So obviously this C3 object will be initialized by this constructor. Inside the constructor, you have to equate the global variable of this object to the local variable name. The names are same, so I can write this dot name equals to name. This dot name means the global variable name equated to the local variable name. And similarly, this dot price equals to price, and this dot model equals to model. So the object would be initialized. I can print C3 dot name, C3 dot price and model. So basically constructor does nothing, but it initializes the state of the object. Right, it saves your time and energy. You just have to supply the details in one go, separated by a comma, and that's it. Object creation will be used a lot in Selenium. When we do the course, okay, later on when we start Selenium, everything over here, right, everything over here which will be done through object creation. That's why I told that this is the most important thing or the most important module in the entire training. Okay. For example, I'll just show you one workspace. Hold on. So gradually as we proceed with the training, you will get more confidence into Java and you will get more confidence into Selenium. Alright. If you are practicing and if you are getting errors, you can take help from us. You can post the questions on the forum. But before posting the error or anything on the forum, make sure about two things. That firstly, you have searched on Google. At least try to resolve it yourself. If you learn something yourself, that is entirely a different experience. Okay. And if it still doesn't help, then take the screenshot. Please mention the screenshot while posting your questions on the forum. Okay. Now this is again the same project and all which I had opened yesterday. If I show you some Selenium code or something, then you know at every point you will be creating objects. Like to work with Firefox over here, I am creating object of the Firefox options class. It's an internal class in Selenium, right? To work with Firefox, I use the Firefox driver object. I'm using the Firefox driver object over here, and in the constructor of this Firefox driver, I'm sending Firefox options object reference. What is this code doing? Please don't think about that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that, you know, object creation and objects are the very basics of the architecture. So please concentrate on it. Okay.